don't think there's any better proof of the transformative impact of a Swarthmore education than seeing alums as compared to who those kids were when they were freshmen, and seeing the extent to which they have become complex thinkers, agents of social change and of intellectual change and of a better society.
I saw you. I saw you. I saw you coming back to me.
I came to campus by accident. Since I was in the neighborhood, I thought I'd check out Swarthmore, and came to campus, didn't have an appointment or anything, just started wandering around, and Paul Mangelsdorf walked up to me and introduced himself and started asking me questions. We spent a long time just chatting, him asking about me, telling me about Swarthmore. I said, boy, if there are people like this here, I've just got to be here.
I remember coming to Swarthmore, and the first thing I was very shocked by was that you could actually call your professors by their first name. I thought, I was very taken aback by that, but I realized actually the importance of that, because by the time you graduate, you're considered a colleague, a peer.
When I was an undergraduate here, John Basio in the physics department had an idea in general relativity he wanted to explore. He hired me for the summer. He tutored me in general relativity. I had a sort of one-on-one course in GR with John, and by the end of the summer, we had a paper that we published.
I felt that there was a wonderfully reinforcing environment for students and for faculty to engage ideas and pursue them and become excited about the new connections that they make. And an environment which at the same time propelled them to want to use those ideas and the greater understanding that they reached to create a better world.
I took an education class, and I was a student teacher in Chester. You were supposed to spend 2 hours one afternoon a week. By the third month, I was there more than I was at Swarthmore. I was a Lang Scholar, and one of the benefits of the Lang Scholarship is you have an opportunity grant that you can use to do a community service or a social action project of your own design. We got the organization started and focused on housing.
There's a lot of interest?
Yes, there's a lot of interest.
I think what Swarthmore gave me in terms of the ability to start Chester was anything was possible. And I found faculty who were interested, I found administration, I went out fundraising, and was really able to make the organization succeed, I think, with the help of the Swarthmore community.
Salem Shuckman was in my political philosophy class. He would bring up the issues that he had confronted in Chester, and he would bring those issues back to the seminar every week and challenge us to bring that material that we were talking about, no matter how abstract, down to the concrete level of, how am I going to get these houses for these guys in Chester?
This was in 1982. I'm still on the board 20 years later. It's been a wonderful experience. We've done well over 100 homes at this point, and it is a thriving community organization.
I think for me, Swarthmore was very much about social and ethical responsibility and being a full human being. And it was very much about saying social responsibility is not something that necessarily I have to do for my entire professional career. It's a part of who I am. It's a part of how I engage the world every day.
Your social conscience gets either awakened or it gets further developed. When I left Swarthmore, I wasn't really quite sure what I wanted to do. I went to work for a very large multinational professional services firm, and I was there for a number of years. And at some point, there was this gnawing feeling that I really wasn't living up to my potential, that I really wasn't doing all that I could be, that I wasn't really impacting people's lives. There was this pilot program in New York City where they were looking for people who were changing careers in midstream to go teach in the inner city. And I got placed teaching social studies in middle school for 7th and 8th graders in the South Bronx.
United States in the middle and Mexico on the bottom.
And I felt a little bit better, so I sort of felt like the conscience of Swarthmore looking over my shoulder was kind of patting me on the back saying, this is a step in the right direction.
On one level, Swarthmore certainly made me feel as though I could tackle just about anything, or to put it more precisely, that I was willing to tackle just about anything. The striking thing for me intellectually was not so much the sense of empowerment, but the sense of having actually faced things that I could not understand. I still remember a seminar that a math professor and a physics professor, Jim England and John Bossio, taught to 3 of us, which they put together simply because all 5 of us happened to be interested in it. And a new book had been published by some Austrian, and they wanted to read it, so they created the seminar, and the 5 of us worked our way through this book, which was only about 128 pages, and I don't think we made it all the way through in this semester because it was unbelievably hard. I mean, there was this one, I remember this one section, and we could not figure out how to get from the top of the page to the bottom of the page. And we worked at it for 2.5, 3 weeks, and finally somebody got on a train, went to the Penn Library, got a journal that was referenced in a footnote, that was a German author that had been translated into French, but it happened that all 5 of us could read a little bit of French, and we worked our way through this article, and then it suddenly made sense. We could get from the top of the page to the bottom of the page.
I also remember a text in which there was a statement, "It is obvious." It only took me 32 hours to show out that it was true. Swarthmore gave me a good background, a good basis in astronomy and physics. That meant that I had the background to pursue a relatively wide variety of activities in astronomy. When NASA came along and I was asked to set up a program in space astronomy, it was a rather simple matter of understanding what astronomers really wanted and developing a program that would meet those needs.
The campus is a place of intellectual ferment where people will be reading books in some of their classes, and you may not be taking those classes, but because your friends are talking about them in the dining hall, you decide that you're going to pick it up and read it so you can talk with them too.
What humanities provides for us?
I think part of what people mean when they say that Swarthmore is an intense place is that what's happening academically ramifies through the campus, even if it's not specific to a particular course.
I'm not bearing to bring forth
You couldn't help getting a liberal education here because we talked to one another. My roommates weren't in science, the other women on my hall weren't in science, and we talked about a lot of other things. And so we were aware of what was going on in the other courses and what people were thinking about.
There was never a time where there wasn't an intellectually stimulating, absorbing, engaging conversation about something somewhere that you could plug into.
I've always searched after Swarthmore for that kind of a community, a consensus of individuals who think, they don't have to think the same, but who think and who spend a lot of their time thinking and acting.
When I think about the college, it is absolutely an academic institution. But when I think back on my time here, it was fun. I mean, we really had fun here. That sometimes gets lost when you discuss the college, but if you want to learn, and you want to learn well, but you want to have fun, that's what this college was to me.
What has stayed the same is that essential core of Swarthmore, which places intellectual excitement and ethical complexity and responsibility at the heart of an education. And what's changed is adapting that incredible core to a world that is diverse, that is international, that is technological, that is exploding with new knowledge, that says that education must, during those 4 years, not only concentrate on the development of ideas, but develop the habits of using those ideas to see how they in fact can transform the world.
I believe what we do best is we prepare the student to become fully engaged with the world, whatever part of the world that student is interested in or has passion about.
The work shares central place with the games, the friendships, the love affairs. The work is not understood as somehow the price you have to pay in order to stay here, but it then becomes part of the fun and part of the affection too, and it does that without ceasing to be serious.
Do you know that tradition at Swarthmore?
I came at a time of year when the campus was in full bloom. I wanted to go to a place that would have a lot of academic intensity, and I thought that I'd want a nice place to escape to when I left the library and the classroom, and the campus certainly served.
I remember the first snowfall in the amphitheater, or seeing the first daffodils bloom right at the end of Parish Walk, taking long walks in the Crumb, and walking through the Rose Garden right towards the end of the year. There's a beauty to this space that contributes to the ethos, I think.
I still remember walking in front of the Friends Meeting House, getting drunk on the fragrance of lilacs. But it's also a place where you fall in love and sit under trees that are shedding their blossoms like a blizzard. Continuing a Swarthmore, in many ways, it's such a luxury, such a privilege, such a gift.
We maintain a very small student body, which means extra expenses and extra cost. We are religiously rigorous intellectually. So when you ask the question, should this be perpetuated? If we don't do it, who will?
I think, though, it's important that that privilege, that incredible gift, be open to lots of different kinds of students, that the inclusiveness of Swarthmore, the diversity of Swarthmore, is in fact now one of its great attributes, one of its great strengths. And I feel very passionately about the importance of continuing that aspect of our excellence.
I've become more of an appreciation for Swarthmore having a child. You know, I look at my child going through school, I look at her classroom, I look at her learning how to think, and I realize I want Swarthmore for her. I want her to be in an environment where she's learning, where she's thinking, where she's challenged. It formed me as a person, and I want that environment for her.
A good college gets you to center on yourself as a being instead of someone who does a certain thing, produces a certain thing. Your being is your mind, your heart. I think that the alums who still care greatly about this place had an experience of being while they were here that underlies whatever they're going to do.
So it was all about creating this full person. I think that's something that stays with me throughout my life, that so many light bulbs went on during Swarthmore that I hope that I can spend the rest of my life having more light bulbs go on.
To know Swarthmore would be, in a lot of ways, to know yourself. And I think I would ask someone to look deep within them. And I would say to them, when you leave Swarthmore, you will probably have explored more of your mind and the more of your soul than you ever thought was possible. And that's what Swarthmore is. It begins that journey of exploration, I think, that we all still continue with today.
The ones who still remember this place, they're not remembering equations, but they're not remembering the content of what they did. But they are remembering the intensity of being alive here during those years.
I felt like when I was at Swarthmore, we were always searching for meaning. It was never truth, it was never the right answer, but it was meaning.
I mean, I would give anything to have a couple more years at Swarthmore now. I'll never forget it.
Small things like reasons are put in a jar. Whatever happened to those wishes wished on a star? Was it just something that I made up for fun? I saw you. I saw you. I saw